Hey there, welcome to Into the Fire. I'm Rob Reed, president of Bison Fire Protection, and I believe that together we can make the world a safer place. So every week we're going into the fire to pull out life lessons learned from frontline professionals and apply them to fire protection, business, and most importantly, everyday life. This week, we're talking to Christian Clavel. He's the president of Canadian First Aid, and he has a great story to share with us about the power of purpose. Let's take a minute and listen to what Christian has to say.
My name is Christian Clavel, president of Canadian First Aid Training, or Formation en Secourisme Canada Limité, here in Winnipeg. Purpose. A few years into the company, we've been in business for 13 years, it came pretty clear in talking to other business owners that we actually had to start focusing on what is it that we meant, what were we meant to be doing, and whether it was like our tagline or our mission statement. We started like throwing some ideas about, and as time passed on, we came up with the idea of our tagline was helping people save lives every day. Now that stuck to me and made sense to me, because that is what we do. Not only do we do training, we sell the equipment that we teach on, and we also provide event first aid. And so there was a nice circular element to that. Now, purpose. I think it became abundantly clear when we had this like amazing 3 and a bit weeks. The details fully escape me, but in a nutshell, 3 of our life-saving devices out of the 2,000 we've placed, 3 of the AEDs, the automated external defibrillators, were used in a few week span. And in all 3 instances, the people survived. We would get a call and the person was explaining actually a bit of a panic. It had just been used and they wanted to know how to put it back into service. So I was able to explain to, unplug the set of pads that was used, put the other one in, and we could, maybe download the incident, and we could talk about, critical incident stress debriefing and what they may want to consider doing in terms of a debrief and try to make sure that everybody was okay. But in all 3 instances, the people survived. And, the long and the short is after the 3rd call, I went into the meeting the next day and I was looking at everybody. I said, we're on to something. We're doing something that is so cool and has just the ultimate goal of making sure that when somebody comes into our classroom, and it's our intended purpose that when somebody comes into our classroom, that we do not take shortcuts. I knew we never did take shortcuts, but if we were going to look at the long term, if we were going to scale this thing on the long-term goal was to make sure that every instructor, that when we walked in, we made it a fun classroom. We made sure that people left there knowing what they were supposed to be doing. But at the end of it, that they were going to go, and 80% of the time that they actually were to end up doing first aid, they'd be helping people they know and care for and love. So that's been probably the most impactful thing. That was the catalyst. That few week span was the catalyst to bring this all to making me know that what we're doing has an ulterior motive, a bigger goal.
Thanks, Christian, for that great story. Really appreciate you sharing that with us. So let's get into the takeaways, and I always start with the fire protection takeaway. And today being a purpose conversation, kind of topic around purpose, I want to talk about Bison's purpose and what that is. And I mean, you've heard me in the intro talking about it. It's, we're trying to make the world a safer place, and that's important to me. But it's not just about having the purpose, because that's important. We need to know why we're doing something. And that's kind of Simon Sinek's wheelhouse. You've heard me talk about this a few times. But when you start thinking about your purpose, it's not just this light, fluffy stuff. It gives people motivation. I mean, our purpose of making the world a safer place is easy to say, but then how do we turn that into something? And I started thinking about it. Well, we're making the world a safer place, by training, by investing in our people. But it's not just training. Of course, that's the easy one. It's having top quality products. Of course, again, an easy one to talk about, effective delivery of service. But it gets right down to the nuts and bolts of what we do every day. Like, why is it important to have top quality coordination, as an example? so that our techs are in place when they need to be, how they need to be. Why is it important to have a great admin system that works behind you to keep everything going? Because if our people are doing their jobs effectively every single day, we are spending more time supporting our customers. If we're supporting our customers, we're making the world a safer place. Everything needs to lead back to that. So I'm going to give you an example. The other day we were in a sales meeting, we were talking about different customers and things that need to happen, and somebody that we thought should join the herd as a customer. And one of the people made the comment that, well, that guy's a little bit difficult to deal with. And I said, well, difficult in what way? And they said, well, he's very demanding. He wants us there on time. He wants the same people. He wants this. And I said, what's wrong with that? That's customer service. That's exactly what we should be doing. Being there when he needs us there. That demanding customer forces us to bring our game up. And when our game comes up for him, it comes up for everyone. And bringing our game up makes the world a safer place. It keeps us on purpose. And it's great to be able to get into meetings and share that. I talk about this around the office here and in our different offices when I'm out in the branches all the time. I need that people to take it out and live it and breathe it. And they really, it's taken a while. I've been at this and talking with them. It didn't happen overnight, but they're starting to really understand it and move with it and adopt it. So if you're thinking about purpose and why we're doing things, where we're going, how we're getting there, you got to bring your team together. It's a top-down structure. It starts with the person at the top. It takes to the next management level. They take it down to the technicians level, and all the way through. You need to be talking about your purpose constantly because it's why you do what you do. Now let's get into the business takeaway. And this one's an important one. So important that I actually took some time and wrote it down. And I don't use the cheat sheets often, but today I think I'm gonna. So I've got 4 points I want to touch on. And the first one here is purpose-driven companies grow faster. And you're gonna ask me, well, why? And this is why this is important. 58% of companies with a clearly defined purpose have experienced growth of 10% or more over the past 3 years, compared with just 42% of companies where purpose is not well understood or communicated. Companies with a clearly defined sense of purpose are up to 50% more likely to successfully expand into new markets, which means they're focused, which means they know what they're doing, they have strategy, they have tactics, they are moving where they need to go, and they have their people rowing the boat in the same direction. They have purpose. Number 2 here. This is an easier one. Purpose makes a Purpose makes a difference to employees. Without a doubt, meaningful work brings employees fulfillment. It's not just a job. Hey, think about that. People want to actually be part of something. They want to be part of a bigger operation. What are we doing? How are we affecting the world? You know, we live in a global economy, a global society now. The internet has changed things where it's not just taking care of your neighborhood anymore. People are concerned about the environment, where they're going, how they have an impact, right down to as silly as plastic straws and the choice not to use those plastics in places. When people make that choice individually, they've made a choice and they have a purpose to make the world cleaner. It's all about the purpose. Number 3. Purpose increases customer loyalty. Your company's mission and values make a difference to customers too. Now we're talking customers. This is important. Let me get through this. 80% of executives surveyed agreed that an organization with shared purpose will have greater customer loyalty. Wow, take that to the bank. Increasingly, brands are taking stands to let their customers know they care. And you see this everywhere. Advertising and marketing has changed. I listen to podcasts with Terry O'Reilly as an example, and you listen to him sharing the different ways marketing has evolved over the years. And it changes because of what customers demand. It changes because of what our interests are outside of work. When you start to see customers or commercials that don't necessarily talk specifically about the company or the product anymore, they're pushing their brand, they're pushing a purpose, and that's important. Last but not least, purpose matters to millennials. The spending power of millennials grows every day. Research from ENSO suggests that 68% of millennials care about social issues compared to 42% of their baby boomer generation counterparts. Now let's think about that. I'm putting the paper down. Millennials are adults now. They're into their 30s. They're not kids anymore. And what I find is interesting is when I still hear people talking about millennials, when you read the books, you go to the TED Talks, whatever you happen to be listening to, people are still talking about millennials like they're kids, but they're not. They're in their 30s. They're executives. They are people that are maintenance managers. They are people in control of purchase order books. Remember that part. They need to be part of what's going on. They need to think that your company has a purpose, and why do they want to bring you into their company? Because you're doing something that lines up with them, and that's important. Let's make sure that when we're dealing with millennials and we're considering them now, they're not a separate group of people. They are in the workplace and they are contributing to what we do every day. Let's help them contribute. Let's give them some leadership. So our last takeaway is the most important one. It's the life lessons takeaway. And you have to ask yourself, because I ask myself this all the time, what is my purpose? My purpose is to be a good father, a good husband, obviously a good business owner here, a good community leader in the business community. That's important. So you have to sit back and ask yourself, what is my purpose in life? And you start, fill in the blank. My purpose is. Think about that, because it's important. I got chatting, with my son Nick yesterday about exactly this. He was talking about what he wants to do as a career versus school and work and all these different things and interests. And I said, well, understand, you don't have to have one purpose. Most people have 3 or 4. And it's, because you have your work life and you have a purpose at work. You have your home life, which is what you do with your family. And you have kind of your own personal, like what drives you, what are your interests, whether it's playing guitar, whether it's skydiving, or the 100 different things that people are into and love to do. But everyone has their own purpose. So again, you think about it. Your purpose is, fill in the blank, because that's an important thing. And it may not just be one, and you shouldn't restrict yourself to one. You have to think about the areas of your life that are important to you. So go, back home today, think about what you're doing, where you're going, why you're wanting to do it, and really spend the time thinking about it. And then as we go, your life will change and improve because you're starting to move in a direction that matters to you. You can be better for others when you're better to yourself. So I want to thank Christian again for his great story on purpose. It really gave us a lot to chew on today. This is so important to all of us. Now, I know you learned something from today's episode of Into the Fire. Do your family and friends a favor and share it with them. Together, we can make the world a safer place. I'm Rob Reed. See you next week on Into the Fire.